Who do we have? Who do we have first? All right, Coach Walters.
How you guys doing?
Let me do one more, make sure that I get everybody who needs to record. I can give permission to has it. I think they do. Ryan, why don't we go ahead and start off with a real quick opening statement, just a little bit about how you're getting set up for spring ball. It starts tomorrow, and what your expectations are going in, and then we'll open up for questions.
Obviously really excited to get to football. Those guys have been doing a great job in the weight room with Tank, and conditioning drills with us in the mornings. They've been attentive during meetings, and they're itching at the chance to finally go kick the ball off a little bit in spring ball, and go compete. You do all the work in the weight room and on the field with conditioning drills to get better and train for football. And so now we get a chance to go play ball. And so that's why everybody's here, and we're excited to go do so, see where we're at. Obviously there's a lot of work needs to be done, and this is just a chance to improve and for that final product come the season. As far as expectations, defensively, we're talking about three things. That's be on time, be urgent, and be prepared. You know what I mean? Be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. Make sure that you're doing the things to allow yourself to do that. Be urgent, doing everything with a purpose, it's, running on and off the field and being attentive in meetings and taking good notes, and then being prepared, like studying away from the building, applying the technique and fundamentals to 11-on-11 situations, and then going out and have fun playing. That's what it's a game. We're playing a game, so let's go have fun in spring.
All right, we'll go ahead and Alec, you can start off, and then just going down the list, folks. Thanks.
Hey, Coach, obviously with the roster being released last week, we were able to get a look at it. There was a couple guys who changed positions: Owen Carney, Seth Coleman, Isaiah Gay, another one. They all moved to outside linebacker. What kind of went into the decision to move those guys around a little bit?
Just the way we're structuring the defense. Those guys they'll be playing outside linebacker. So that's why we got them the position change. We're just calling it what it is. For what it is, and those guys are having fun with it. It's obviously different techniques and different scheme a little bit, and so I'm excited to see the byproduct of their work in making those transitions.
You mentioned their work there a little bit. What are you kind of looking to see out of them in their first full adjustment to, like you said, there's going to be a ball for the first time. So what are you kind of looking out of those guys out of their first spring ball in a new position?
Just to play hard and continue to improve. There's a couple of things that we shouldn't have to coach or teach, and that's effort. And so that's what we want everybody to do. We're going to make mistakes. This is our first time together. This is the day one practice tomorrow morning, and so there will be mistakes made. Just go play hard, and we'll correct it. When we get into the film room. So that's really what I'm looking for with those guys is communicating confidently and playing extremely hard.
Coach, this program is coming off, 2 years since they had a traditional spring ball. How important is this for you guys just to kind of get back on the field, especially when you're in this transition period with a new coaching staff?
It's extremely important, and I think Coach B's plan has been genius. Just maximizes the amount of time that you get to develop. You talk about going 8 weeks of training before you get to spring ball. These guys look and move around way different. Being able to work with Coach Tank for those 8 weeks is like getting an extra summer conditioning. And then you stretch out spring ball through 5 weeks. So we've got 3 practices a day, which maximizes the amount of meeting time you get in between practices. And kind of takes it slow, and that's vital in terms of learning a new system and getting to know players and players getting to know coaches, and so the fact that he was able to take time with this spring, I think is going to pay huge dividends come the fall. I know a lot of teams out there right now are done with spring ball. I could not imagine being done with spring ball right now. I feel like we are definitely maximizing the amount of time allotted and and really taking our time into, developing our football IQ and mastering, techniques and fundamentals that we're trying to teach to a new system and new coaches and, coaches that haven't been with these players before. So kudos to Coach B in doing that and not rushing it.
And what's the role for you as you guys look ahead to these spring practices? I mean, are you gonna, focus with a different position group each day, or what's kind of the flow for you? Do you have a plan for how you plan to evaluate and coach your guys in these 5 weeks?
Yeah, so I'm working primarily with the safeties, like in terms of a position group. They meet with me. I take them through individual. And then, when it looks at when you look at the bigger pictures, that's when we're getting together as a staff, watching the tape and just making sure everybody's in the right spot and looking at the right things and communicating the right checks. But yeah, as far as, who I'm directly responsible for from a day-to-day operations, that's the safety group.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Ryan, obviously you've been a part of putting new defenses in before, changing systems for a new group. What is the key in, going from one system to a very different system like you and in this implementation process this spring?
Yeah, well, this is like the first time I've been able to do it with like a new staff and new player. It's like this is the starting from scratch, like for real, and so what's been awesome though is the collective, minds coming up with terminology and, the whys of why we're getting in and out of calls or what the structure is going to look like and what we're calling it, what we're calling offensive formations and plays and route concepts, and so that part of it, I'm glad that we took the 8 weeks before spring ball because it took time, but it was much needed time to get the right product and the right system in place. And so obviously, who knows how it's going to look when that first practice comes. But I'm blessed to be surrounded with really good coaches and to be working for a head guy that gets it. Like he understands what is needed right now. And so, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what it will look like when when live bulls are flying. But yeah, we're blessed to have a great staff sitting around the table with me every day.
In understanding you guys have an advantage with other teams not knowing what you're running. Everyone wants a label, an easy label for your defense. Is that really applicable anymore with defenses, or how do you feel about that?
I don't think so, man. I mean, you see sort of the trends, right? Like defensively, you're always reacting to what an offense does. And so offenses are becoming a lot more multiple, right? You get, the same personnel group, but you get different formations and guys playing different type of positions and getting diverse with the plays. You got the RPOs where it's 2 plays are called at one time, basically. And so now you kind of see the natural progression where defenses, you got to be multiple, right? And so that's just the kind of the way the evolution of the game goes. So yeah, it's hard to label, a defense, at least the systems that I've been a part of the last couple of years as, like a cookie cutter, we're a 4-3 or we're a 4-2-5 or we're a 3-4. I think the goal is to be all 3 of those at any given moment in time, especially on early down. So, that's I don't know what I would call our D. It's just like it's Illinois defense, and I think that's the beauty of starting from scratch and be able to come up with ideas and to combat the things that you think you're going to see in the fall based on the opponents you're going to face in the fall.
Great, thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan, I know you were really excited to kind of come in, work with that staff to put together this defense after kind of learning a little bit more about the roster that you have. How much of that process kind of took place over those last 8 weeks? How much still kind of needs to happen now that you guys can actually get on the field and start implementing these things? Where kind of are you in that process of, writing up and implementing everything?
Yeah, I mean, we're at the initial stage. We've got day 1 install in. And so like that's where we are. I'm sure it'll evolve, as we progress through spring and get into fall. But I'm happy with where we're at. I said when I took this job that one of the things that excited me about it was being able to learn not only from Coach B, but from the people that has placed in this building, and in particular the defensive coaches that are surrounding the table in the defensive staff room. And that has definitely happened. I think to a man, we're all learning and continuing to hone in on our own football IQ as coaches, and that's all you can ask for, is just a continued growth in this profession. So because of that, like, we're always going to challenge each other. We're always going to try to find creative ways to solve problems that we're seeing from offenses. And so I'm sure that we'll evolve and progress throughout the spring, and sit down and dive into the opponents we're going to see this fall, this summer, and continue to grow and challenge each other through fall camp. So, but we're still day one installs where we're at right now.
And since the last time we talked, I'm sure you've had time to, break down game tape of everybody on your defense. How much more of an advantage is it for you, though, kind of compared to seeing their game tape and then getting to see them in person? What are some kind of pros and cons of both sides of those, of in-game and in practice?
Yeah, I mean, you look at game tape, and you see it through a lens of what they were being asked to do or trying to accomplish based on what that call was or what position they were playing. You know what I mean? So it's a small sample size of who that player is as an athlete. So now that you get to see him move around and run around, you might go from playing defensive end to outside linebacker. You know what I mean? And I think that's the advantage of seeing them in person. You get to see the total picture, and then we'll see another sample size when we get into spring ball, in terms of seeing them actually play football and put pads on and go execute a call. So you're always evaluating and always processing information. And so that's but yeah, that is definitely the advantage of seeing it in person as in comparison to seeing it on tape.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Brian, this roster is obviously pretty experienced, and a lot of these guys have several years of starting under their belt, and they've kind of always done something a certain way. For you guys as a coaching staff, especially for some of these super seniors, what's the process of maybe meeting them in the middle as they, only have 1 year in this and moving forward?
Yeah, I think the thing that I've been the most surprised with and pleased about, like, I've been a part of transitions before, both as a player and a coach. And it's like, how fast can you get the seniors to buy into what the program is trying to preach or accomplish? And, to these players' credit, like it was almost immediate. I mean, we haven't had a lot of pushback or problems, you know what I mean? And I think that's also a credit to Tank and his staff. That initial 4 to 5 weeks was all with Tank. And, those guys meshed really well. And he's not only developing them as athletes, but you talk about leadership and discipline and motivation and all those things, and challenging them. Tank is a bona fide star in his profession. You heard it here, right here. Like, Tank is a star. And I've been thoroughly impressed with what he's done with those guys. And I think that helped, obviously, in the complete buy-in or the total buy-in from the locker room. Again, we haven't put out a depth chart. We haven't had one practice in spring. So, there's obviously going to be some adversities there. But the willingness to do what we've asked them to do through these 8 weeks from the guys in the locker room has been phenomenal. And I think every day as a staff, we try to just maintain and continue to develop trust and respect within the players and develop relationships and show that we care about them more than just, who they are as a player, but just getting to know them as people. So, it's sunshine and rainbows right now because we haven't had a practice yet. So,
Thanks, Ryan.
Brian, if I could ask you about 2 guys that I think are in your position room as safeties, and correct me if they're not, please. But Derek Smith and Prather Hudson, a couple of veterans that have had sporadic playing time other places, and I'm just kind of wondering what your expectations are of those 2 veterans in your room.
The same expectations I got of everybody else in that room is to know the playbook, know what your reads and keys are, work at it diligently, and play hard when we're at practice. So that's just to go work hard. That's what I expect those guys to do right now. And we'll see where, in terms of competitive standpoint, we'll see what happens through these 15 practices.
What do you, I mean, I know you haven't, put a ball down yet. You haven't even gotten it to anything yet, but in your meetings and in your room, what do you like about your safety room right now?
So for one, when we have had time to kind of go out and work them out, they work extremely hard. No matter what the drill is, like those guys are going 1,000 miles an hour. I love that about them. When we're in the film room, everybody is sitting down with an open notebook and a pen in hand, and they're taking detailed notes. They're asking, the right kind of questions. They're trying to understand the whys, and then they've had good recall when we've transitioned to another subject, and then bounce back to a previous subject. There's been recall there. So I like that room a lot. We got to create and develop some depth a little bit, but I'm liking where they are right now. They're where they should be right now.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Okay, we've got time for about 2 or 3 more minutes before we have to switch over, since they have a meeting at the top of the hour. So go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, Coach, I'm mostly curious how, you mentioned you don't really even have a depth chart yet. What do you do? How do you approach that first practice? Like if you go 11 on 11, how do you figure out your ones at the first practice?
I mean, we just had this conversation with these guys. Like, obviously, when we go against the offense, there's got to be 11 people out there. And so, you put a depth chart out, based on, guys that have played, the experience, maybe classification. But they got to understand that just because you're rolling out there with the ones right now, at the end of practice, you could be a 2. That's just how the evaluation process goes. Like, so nothing is set in stone right now. Guys will be learning multiple positions, and we'll change up who's out there with the 1s or the 2s, day to day, and it could be period to period. So it's a very, very fluid and fluctuating depth chart right now.
Thanks.
No problem.
Ryan, good to see you. I know since we've last talked, obviously the staff has been filled out, and you kind of alluded to this a little bit answering one of Jeremy's questions, but just what has the dynamic been like between you and the other defensive coaches? What have those relationships been like, and just what has it been like forming this defense with those guys?
It's been awesome. It's been really fun. We got I was joking on an alumni call the other day, but it's almost been beneficial to sort of get out, by yourself and get to work, because we all got put up in a hotel. So it's like you're back in the dorms with your buddies, you know what I mean? So you develop chemistry that way. I go out to eat with, our defense staff. We go out to eat all the time, because everybody, like, people's families and getting houses, like, that's just now happening. So we've had a long time to get to know each other, both in the defensive staff room, talking football, and also, back at the hotel or sitting out at dinner and telling stories and getting to know each other. So I'm really tight with those guys. I think we all have a tight bond right now. Like, I would hang out with every single one of them. Away from this profession, those would be guys that I would gravitate toward in a natural setting. So blessed that way. They're all, I've said this before, but not only are they high football IQ coaches, but they're good people. They're good character guys, no ego guys, and that's what you got. That's what you need. That's what you got. That's what it's going to take to be able to put the best product possible out there come the fall when it's time to kick off on Saturdays.
Okay, last question, Doug.
Hi, Coach. Hopefully the recruiting dead period will end at the end of May, and it's going to be the first time you get to see some kids face to face. Can you just talk a little bit about how you're going to tackle that, the first weekend of June, and just how recruiting has been going in general?
Yeah, obviously everybody wants it to be back open, and it's hard to evaluate, entire classes without seeing them move around in person. We just talked about the difference of seeing, our own team from tape and then seeing them live. That's the same. It holds true in the recruiting process. So right now you do what you can do, and that's, set up Zoom. We got Zoom meetings all day long, and that's what he's talking about with the meeting on top of the hour. We got a Zoom call coming in. And it's constantly being on the phone, zooming in on football chalk talk with the guys. And then, so, obviously when they open it up, you saw Coach Beelan was pushed to try to get official visits right away. And I think that's smart, try to get ahead of the curve a little bit. And recruits right now are itching to get on campus, and I can see why. I couldn't imagine making a decision without first seeing a place with my own eyes. So that's kind of where we're at right now from a recruiting standpoint.
All right, Coach. Thank you, Coach Walters. Appreciate your time today. We'll transition over to Coach Peterson.
All right.